Bruce just accepted Black Mask's offer to stand down for a week while he does who knows what, and in return, Bruce gets millions that he can use to further his Batman ventures. But how did this Batman come to be in the first place? What is the absolute Batman's origin? Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to support the industry and go check them out at your local comic shop. Today, we are going to look at the absolute Batman's origin and how he first started his life as the Batman. This is Absolute Batman issue number 4 by Scott Snyder. I hope you enjoy. The past. The courtroom is quiet as a young Bruce Wayne takes the stand. The judge looks at those gathered. This morning, Mr. Chill was prepared to give a statement, but Mr. Wayne has requested to speak first, the judge explains. He looks down at Bruce Wayne, whose eyes are shut tight. You can go ahead now, son. What is it you have to say? The judge asks. Bruce opens his eyes, and a single anger-fueled tear runs down his cheek. A short time ago, the gangbangers stand on the rooftop, smiling at the apartment residents that are dangerously close to the edge. The leader of the gang steps forward and glances at those gathered. Go on, convince me. Tell me why you three alone think you should be exempt when everyone else chips in, he says. He motions to the city around them. Historic Park Row. Upkeep takes money. 10 Thieves isn't a gang. We only want to keep this place safe. And without proper funding, we just can't do that, the gang leader says as he steps forward, demanding to know why Mrs. Wynn refuses to pay. But she glares at him, refusing to pay anyone for the right to live in her own home. The gang leader sighs and reaches out and pushes her gently, sending Mrs. Wynn over the side of the building, and he turns to the others. See? If we don't stay vigilant, things get unpredictable real fast. You never know what could happen, he says with a chuckle. But he turns in shock as Mrs. Wynn is suddenly tossed back onto the rooftop. The gangbangers look around in shock, unaware of the shadow creeping up behind them. The cloaked figure opens his mouth, bearing sharp fangs as his eyes begin to glow. The bat lets out a screeching cry as it leaps among them. Wait! Wait! One of the gangbangers shouts in fear as the cloaked bat leaps forward and bites into his neck. The gang member lets out a strangled cry and falls away, foam falling from his lips. The bat whirls, slashing across the next gang member with his claws. He whirls again as the gang leader draws his pistol and fires. Stay away, or I'll blow your damn head off! The leader shouts, but the bullets have no effect, seeming to just bounce off the dark wings of the bat. The monster steps forward and draws its own pistol, aiming it at the gang leader's head. But he hesitates, memories of his father flashing before his eyes. Thomas walked into the room as Bruce continued to work on his project. I chose a bat, Bruce says as he looks up from his makeshift bridge model. He shows his father, explaining that it's for the Young Engineers competition at the zoo. A lot of their animals come from distressed areas, so we have to build a bridge for a place like that, and theme it around an animal. Bruce tells him as he motions to the spires on his bridge, modeled after bat wings. Thomas looks at it, noting that it looks quite intimidating. I just wonder if that's the best strategy for a place in need. Intimidation? Thomas points out. The pistol shakes slightly in Bruce's hand, his father's words echoing in his mind. Suddenly, the door bangs open behind him as more gang members flood out. The bat whirls and leaps off the roof. His cloak billows as it catches the wind and he swings off into the night, seeming to fly away from the danger. Later, Bruce stands in his lair. He shakes his head as he stares into the fire. The criminals were afraid of him, but it was all theatrics. The animal noises, the fake teeth with paralytics, the claws and the gun. He is disgusted with himself, and he throws it all into the fire. He needs another way. Time passes. He continues to study, to train, to build and create. He needs to do better, to be the thing that criminals fear. He studies his city, moving out at night, watching the gangs and the corrupt GCPD. He finds where the Falcones and Maronis are bringing weapons and drugs in at the docks. They move in the open, unafraid of the police on their payroll. That night, an 18-wheeler pulls away from the docks, loaded up with illegal goods. Behind them, a remote-controlled car moves fast to catch up. It drives underneath the truck just as it enters a tunnel. The drivers have no idea, but their headlights suddenly illuminate a man dressed as a bat in front of them. "What the? Run him down!" the passenger shouts. But Batman is prepared. He hits a button on the remote control and the small car detonates, slamming up into the 18-wheeler and smashing the trailer into the roof of the tunnel. And the truck behind it hits the brakes, but screeches to the side and slams into the guardrail. The mobsters get out quickly, trying to figure out what happened, but Batman is suddenly there, leaping from the shadows. He lashes out with foot and fist, knocking the mobsters down in mere moments. Batman stands there as the last goon falls. He is barely breathing heavily. "I think maybe I figured it out," young Bruce tells his father as he shows him his newest version of the Bat Bridge. It's smaller now, less intimidating, but more functional, able to adapt to different situations depending on the area. Like bats with echolocation, Thomas watches as Bruce shows him everything, and he smiles. "It's really impressive, bud. I love it," Thomas tells him. And Bruce nods. "Do you think it's good enough to win?" he asks. Thomas shrugs slightly and looks down at his son. "I don't know, but all that matters is that you feel like it's the best you can do. That it shows what's special about a bat, at its core," Thomas tells him. Bruce ponders this and questions how you can know what something is at its core. Thomas thinks about it for a moment and tells his son that at one point he wanted to be a heart surgeon, to help people. But eventually he married Martha and they had Bruce, which meant that he couldn't afford med school, so he became a teacher instead. Thomas explains that at his core, he wanted to help people, and helping children learn the skills they needed to succeed in life helped him do that. So at his core, he is doing what he wants to do. Bruce nods and thinks on his father's words. Bruce looks up at Court. His face is a mask of anger. "I know Mr. Chill gets to make a statement today," Bruce begins. He lets the court know that he has had time to reflect on what happened at the zoo that day, that he remembers being there with his class, there for a competition that Bruce had entered. Bruce explains that he looked back, and for a moment, he saw that his father was proud of him. He remembered seeing his father and feeling so happy. Another tear falls from Bruce's eyes and streaks down his cheek. And I knew it. In that moment, this was as happy as it gets. Ever. I wanted to stay in it, to never leave that moment, Bruce says softly. He glares at Joe Chill, his words coming out in a hiss. "You killed that happiness, Mr. Chill. Forever. So I'm not staying for anything you have to say. I don't care what made you do what you did. I just need you to know that I hate you," Bruce shouts. The judge bangs his gavel, demanding order in his court as Bruce continues to yell, and those gathered begin to murmur. Long ago, young Bruce calls his father, asking him to come see his final project. Bruce explains that he thought about it, and at its core, the bat-styled bridge needed to be everything for the people who needed it, that it needed to be intimidating and adaptable. He pulls away the cloth, revealing the bridge with an even more bat-shaped design. It's got everything the other designs had, but this one, it's got an extra feature. It flies. It's lightweight, foldable. It could be dropped from a plane and parachuted down, so the people can set it up themselves. It'd be a tool to use however they need. They don't have to rely on the powers that be to set it up. It makes the bridge theirs. They can use it for aid, for defense, even offense, Bruce explains with a smile. In the not-so-distant past, Bruce continues to build bigger and better. He trains, making himself stronger. He studies the world. He creates his armor, his equipment. He finds his belfries, his bunkers around the city. He becomes what the city of Gotham needs: intimidating, adaptable. He stands ready with the new equipment, a type of material that can harden and soften through the flexing of his wrist and hand. Record. Testing bat thumb, Bruce says to his computers. He grips his hand and the rod retracts, becoming a type of claw. He smiles. He's found his symbol. He creates Batman. He is ready. Night falls over the city, and the rich and elite gather for the annual Dance for a Better Gotham charity ball. Batman watches from the skylight above as the rich and elite mingle. He placed directional mics and listened in on their conversations. These people supposedly want to make Gotham a better place, but they really don't. They merely want to make themselves richer. They don't care about the city or the people that live in it. But Bruce isn't there for any of them. He is after Randall Powers, the man who owns the trucking company that Maroni and Falcone use. Taking out the goons and gangsters won't stop the shipments. They'll just get someone else to do it. But Batman has decided that if you take out the means of getting the guns and the drugs into the city, you make it too difficult for the mob to do their job. Suddenly, there is a buzz of a helicopter as it crests the building. A spotlight shoots down, and for a moment, Batman is illuminated.
You there! Lie down with your hands behind your back!
A cop shouts over the loudspeaker, but Batman whirls and leaps away into the night, swinging off into the darkness and disappearing. Later, Bruce has traveled to Blackgate Prison. Someone has requested to speak with him. Bruce walks into the visitation room and glares at the man behind the glass. Joe Chill just stares back. Anger flashes through Bruce, and he tightens his fist. Finally, he steps forward and picks up the phone. Well, you had something to say? Bruce asks the man who killed his father. And thus concludes the origin of how this Bruce became Batman. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss when the next issue comes to the channel. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.